Okay, so these are mine, and I'll say there were no numbers in the instructions other than 2 or 3 or 4 photos. So I had difficulty doing this because there were no numbers. So I did 3, so we're right in the middle. I ended up with a random hodgepodge of pictures on my phone. So it was really for me about trying to find the journey in the pictures.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start with this one. These are turbans. If you don't know what those words are, I'm sure most of you do, but I had to learn about that a couple years ago. Anyway, so this is kind of where I started. I'll order pumpkins and other gourds for our church to sell for a fundraiser. So in terms of my local connection, this became the beginning, is trying to find a local connection for that, for these gourds, and that was really kind of my outsider one slight connection to that. And I have to admit that I didn't actually take that picture. My 9-year-old took that picture. And actually found out yesterday it is the State Fair of Louisiana Grand Champion photograph. We were
That's
quite
great.
shocked. But she did that, and it was really cool to see food in a different way, because I saw it through the eyes of a 9-year-old who looked at it and saw beauty and amazing colors. And
Those are pretty.
it was just really, really cool. It looks better on that one than up here, I must admit. But there is some glitter, which is so hard.
Yeah, we're talking about
Make sure you tell her we put glitter on her picture. She'll love it.
She gave me that reminder about food, so that's kind of where I started. And so then, when we had our second meeting, John brought the casserole, and I took the picture of the casserole and the recipe that comes with it. Food that was grown on his farm that then was transformed and shared with a group, which to me was really cool because it reminded me of being a kid. My mom's family has a long history of farming until her dad, he became an MD. And so they kind of got away from the farming side, but my great aunt and great uncle kept the family farm as long as they could. And I remember going to the family farmhouse, and they had this giant concrete patio with, tables and chairs out on it, and it was painted bright red, and not stained, it was painted. So it's one of those things very vivid in my mind. And we would meet when the crops would come in, and we would all be in the kitchen cooking together and sharing. I would stand in the chair to reach the counter. I was very small. And then we'd go outside and have dinner on this big patio. So he reminded me of that connection to family that food can have. Local grown, fresh connection, family, history, something really cool and grounded. So that's my picture of that. And then my last one, my daughter and my son are growing tomatoes in the backyard. That's my daughter. And she thinks that is the most amazing thing to go out and pick all these tomatoes. And we have this one plant that's the biggest thing I've ever seen on tomatoes. And it produces about 30 to 40 these little bitty tomatoes a week. We pull them up, and she loves that. And all of this kind of reminded me what I need to do is connect her like I was connected to the land, to family, to sharing. So somehow I'm going to move that forward.
Oh, that's great. I think that's a really great way of highlighting the cultural relevance of food and how significant those are in our lives. So thank you.
If your daughter needs websites for photography, these are really good training websites. I swear I wasn't on my phone while you were presenting. I was Googling the name of one of them.
Hello. So, I focus a lot on my role, and I feel like I have a lot in common with Emily. Like contributing to the sustainable development is really in any way that I can. Let me remind myself. This is a beautiful photo, downtown Alexandria. The last class they combined Oktoberfest and stuff. So this gave me this notion. You were talking about how there's there's a learning curve in the local community. It's difficult and that might not be what they want right now. So I came up with this notion of food literacy is finding ways to purposefully implement food culture, community-based food culture into people's lives in meaningful ways. And that might start as their kids, and then it will just grow into their communities. Because that's really important for farmers to be able to sell locally. The distribution problem isn't just an infrastructure problem, it's a consumer problem. So the landscape of, this is kind of like, I have this notion of incentivizing community-based food systems, and I sat down and I thought about it, and what it really envelops is all of these things. You have to have each of these elements. You have to, and probably access is the one that's most often neglected, or people that least like to think about it. It's a difficult topic for a lot of people. Oh, and I felt like this photo. So this is actually in my garden plot at Sprout Nola. And it's behind a Whole Foods, and so there was like a stray grocery cart over there. So I brought it into my garden and like picked some stuff and put it in there. I'm like, this looks so perfect. Wouldn't it be awesome if you could bring a grocery cart to a garden and pick it yourself? Yeah,
It's a great idea.
That would be awesome. And I think that I've
I
read
thought he
articles about
photoshopped it.
people
It's
working on
brilliant.
that kind of like interface in a supermarket where you
Foods
can
market.
hydroponics and so this is the garden in them over at Sprout Nola. This is our monthly potluck. So there's this notion that came up very strongly in the last two workshops of like really looking at the culture and its uniqueness and the unique conditions and optimizing your goals and strategies that are unique to that area and the people there and what they do on a daily basis, and not just making a radical change because you can't predict or control what's going to happen. You have to make really small incremental changes and see how they work and then build off of those or get rid of those. And so like by staying in the field, staying connected to the community, being connected at the basic level, talking to people, not estranging yourself from people that you wouldn't maybe normally hang out with because of various cultural conditioning, you can fuel this dynamic diversity to the way that you approach the development of the food system. So that's my role, and it's interesting how I arrived here because it started with just being interested in like health. So I went to the farmers market, and I made so many friends with farmers, and I felt like in a lot of communities I have this imposter syndrome going out like in the city to a networking event or something, but I feel very comfortable in this community. And it's grown from like, I want to be healthy to I want to grow some food for sale to this really like broad, complex goal to a sustainable development goal, looking at it from that perspective, that all-inclusive perspective. And that's what I say.
I think that's great. I think you covered a lot of really complex thoughts and emotions in there, and I think they're all really relevant, and I think it's going to be exciting watching you sort of breathe life into those things. I'm really excited about that, so thanks for sharing.
Oh, that's me.
Yummy! Oh, baby.
Oh my god. Oh, sorry, I wrote really long captions. So yeah, I definitely was a city girl. My husband is in the Army, so we've lived a lot of different places, and saying that I had concerns about moving to rural Louisiana is the nicest way I could put it. And I think we've only lived here 9 weeks now. This week is actually the 9th week that we've lived here. And I really my journey, I think, through this has been probably threefold. The first was just sort of realizing that there's a lot of cultural shock going on for me, and being okay with that, but also coming to a place where I'm making a concerted effort to have an open mind about new experiences and the way of life here. Probably the second thing that I was really able to identify was something that was shocking to me, and really I think that I was able to identify this and kind of pinpoint why it bothered me so much because of this workshop. I was having a couple of conversations with some Army wives in the area and was finding out that there's a massive disparity between kind of the haves and have-nots.
Yeah.
In the Fort Polk community, there's a massive amount of food insecurity, and that really blew my mind because I thought, how could this be in this modern day and age that you just don't have these resources? So I was starting to get to a point where I thought there's actually a lot here in the Leesville community. There are good people here, and there are resources here that could potentially sort of merge my two little separate lives. So that's kind of where I landed on that food culture really isn't black and white. I didn't have to feel like I come from a city where I felt that food culture was very vibrant and there were a lot of opportunities to somewhere that just was this food desert that, I mean, Anne lives in Leesville and she'll tell you, you drive through and like Walmart is the grocery store. The upscale supermarket that my neighbor was like, oh, this is where you should go. They sold pig feet and like 7-gallon tubs of nacho cheese as the special of the week. And I was like, oh God, let me just die right here. I'm gonna lay down on the floor and leave me. Like, I can't do this. So I kind of have to move from that and realize that there's a lot more to it. And part of that is you can go to the local hardware store and also buy really good local honey. But the more relevant aspect of that is you get to go to the market and meet somebody like Anne that's genuine and enthusiastic and is an advocate and who drives you to things like this and says there's so much more to it. There are resources. It's true story.
She's picking on me because I'm dragging her to Michigan with me to get apples from my mother-in-law's trees.
No, I'm not picking on you for that. Yes. But it really is hyper-local. Like, we can gather a bunch of people in this room who have this diverse array of experiences and backgrounds and really connect with each other. And so what I'm hoping to do, and I think what my role is going to be as a food leader, is trying to bring some of the resources from some of the neediness of Fort Polk, for lack of a better way to say it, and connect them with some of the resources that rural Louisiana has to offer. And part of that is going to be through the Spouses Club. We're starting a community garden and hoping to bring some of the people that live on post and who do experience real, desperate times and have a need for fresh food, and educate them a little bit about how to grow it, so that when they do need it, they not only have local resources, but they're able to kind of feed themselves as well.
Wow. That was
Your garden is awesome. My garden is actually only about that big, but it's going.
It's a 6 foot by 2 foot box.
Yeah, I made your husband build it.
Yeah, on legs. She's
Right.
pretty awesome. Yeah, Dan.
First though, thank you. I think that was just brilliant. And as someone who's lived all over the U.S., the first time I moved to rural Tennessee, I always felt like I should have my passport, and I tried to never leave the house without it. But it gets easier, and I want to really thank you for highlighting something really near and dear to my heart. You mentioned that you needed to connect people with the rural resources, and we don't hear that from a lot of places. So honoring the fact that rural America has amazing resources to give back to the community. And she said that out loud, and I want to really honor you and thank you for saying that, because that's very important. So thanks for that.
Thanks, Anne.
Am I one of those rural resources?
Yes.
Okay, so y'all know me. All right, so I kind of started, like Marianne, my husband is military, we came, and I was also of the, oh my God, where did I land kind of idea mentality. So the first place we lived was in an RV park while my husband went to school. So he left me alone with 3 dogs in the RV for 6 months. I had a garden. I had a pot, and it had a garden. The next house we moved to was a 420 square foot cabin on a half an acre. And I took half of that and put it into garden, and I built my first chicken coop. And I had so much produce from that 1/8 of an acre that I started going to the farmer's market. Now the house we're living on, I've got 4 acres, and this is one of the little garden beds that I have barricaded off from all my chickens. And I have rabbits that live in the garden, so I can put their poop right on my garden. So my start is growing my own food, growing a food system, and starting from there. So moving on over here. So the second part is farmer's market. I took that and started becoming a vendor.
I know.
And nobody else wanted to do anything with it. There was no organization. It was just, oh yeah, willy-nilly.
It's like an
maybe we'll
illness.
set up on
I feel
Saturday,
bad for
maybe
giving
we'll
it
set up
to
on
you.
Tuesday, maybe we won't set up at all. So when the Main Street manager approached me about being a market coordinator, I said yes, because this is ridiculous and nobody knows where we are. So for 2 years, I beat my head against a brick wall and tried to corral vendors, tried to get more vendors, tried to impress upon the vendors the importance of labeling and good food handling process, and trying to get customers down to them. And you can see we have this really cool banner that has our times. I spend 99% of my time telling people when the farmer's market is. It's Thursday afternoons and Saturday mornings. They walk right under this banner and they're like, oh. So one of the things that I am very pleased to say we implemented was the SNAP and credit card system. We got a grant that allowed us to start accepting SNAP and credit card. And then as part of that grant, we got to implement a kids program. Kids would come to market and they got a little passport, and every time they brought their passport, they got $10 free to spend at market. It was such a success that consistently in a week, my vendors were turning in $400 token checks to reimbursement. As soon as that kids program dried up, and because we spent all the money in the region, there were 3 markets participating, we spent, I think, 80% of the money. And so as soon as that program dried up, the vendors would give me their token checks and be like $20. I'm like, what happened? Where'd all the kids go? Well, you're not giving them free money, they're not going to come to market anymore. Their parents won't bring them. And I've had kids that begged and pleaded to come to market. So that's kind of where I'm still doing that. I'm still working on the fine details. But what I have learned and what I feel is my best, most productive role is I am a connector. If you have a resource, I will figure out how to get it to somebody who needs it. If you need something, I will figure out how to back plan and help you accomplish whatever it is. So that's kind of why I have this, the Fresh Central logo. That's my husband's gorgeous hands that I'm shaking. Because that's what I feel my biggest, my best, where I'm most productive, my role is I am that connector and helping with the partnerships. A lot of what Cleta and now Mackenzie, yay, is going to be doing. I'm so excited that I don't have to do this anymore. But this is kind of what I feel I've kind of grown into. And I've made a lot of resources, and I've learned that I can talk a dog off a meat wagon. And I feel like a used car salesman a lot of times out here typing, hey, this is why you need to be local, blah, blah, blah. You come down and you hear the spiel, but then you find and you meet people like Miss Johnson and one of my vendors, Freddie, who's got his own farm. He's retired military. He's doing a CSA. It's a small CSA, but he's really enjoying it. People like Marianne come out and they actually venture out, and I grab them off the street and literally drag them around and introduce them to my farmers. And they find out that these people actually really care about what they're doing, and so they start caring about like their food. And it's really cool. And this is where I really feel that I get the most satisfaction. I love rubbing in the dirt. I love doing farmers market, but this is my satisfaction, is that connecting people and resources.
That's great, Anne. Thank you. And I think it's cute that you think that you get to start doing that just because they hired more staff. That's funny.
Stop.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's cute, right? Totally cute. Right. And I think she said she loves farmers markets, and if anybody's ever coordinated a farmers market, you know she's saying that tongue in cheek, because getting greased cats into a wheelbarrow is easier than working with farmers. And as a farmer, I own that. But I think that as a champion, seeing how heavily you invest in your community and your region, and how proudly and loudly you share that, is finer than spun gold. And so thank you for sharing that and for the voice that you have in the region. I'm really glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. This picture is my little backyard garden.
Oh, I love it.
I am by no means a grower, but I try. And for me,
My
just
home
kind
is where my
of
food is
getting my
grown.
hands dirty and making some kind of something grow for more than 2 weeks is incredibly empowering. Knowing that I can go outside and eat something is really powerful. And the caption, "My home is where my food is grown," that is a song lyric from a Jason Mraz song called "Back to the Earth." And it really speaks to me because it just gets at the concept of, when you get caught up in the world, you get stressed out, find some gravity, put your hands in the dirt. That's what it's all about. And it really speaks to me and means something to me. And I think that I'd love to be able to share that perspective, even if it's just with friends or family, just to say, hey, look, food is close, food can bring people together, food can do a lot of things, and it's right here in your backyard. Maybe not literally your backyard, but close to call home. This other picture is a picture from a local food fundraiser. It was just a beautiful setting, a beautiful table, as you can see. And the image of the table has more than one meaning. In the more literal sense, it's where people gather to share a meal, to have food, and that is a special place in and of itself. But also more figuratively, it's where we can gather our ideas and our resources, and like DC talked about, like you just talked about being a connector, let's bring people together and solve some problems. And I think the way I came to, this being my role in the food system is over the past several years, just in my professional work, working around the state with people like John that are doing things, trying to make this happen, trying to make local food more of a reality. But there are some real challenges, just logistically and otherwise. And I'm confident that we can overcome those challenges. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to sit down together at an awesome table with some awesome food, figure it out.
Great. I love your container gardens. I mean, you even went to the trouble of mulching them. I mean, that's just brilliant. That just makes my heart sing that you make your plants so happy, so well tended. And I think that we've gone from these really complex, crazy, there's so much meat to this situation, and you've done a really brilliant job of saying there are aspects of this that are very, very simple. And I think that's really heartening to hear and to be reminded of, that, Brussels sprouts and lettuce in a pot can make a world of difference in someone's day. And really, it is truly about bringing everyone to the table. So thank you for that. That was really beautiful.
Yosemite?
Yeah, that's my favorite place.
Nice.
You can almost see where I was born. It's just a little to the left and down.
Okay. There you go. I only had 2 pictures and I thought we had 3, so you get a picture of a cow. It's actually a Central Louisiana cow because he's on the way to the Bankovic's house. And I love him, or just, I love these cows in general. They just kind of sit there and stare at the road. It's kind of a busy road, I guess. And
Keeps them entertained.
they just kind of hang out. But so I don't really know where my place is yet. 6 months ago, I got laid off. This was Delta Delivery was an idea in my head. I've been working in oil and gas for 9 years. I said, oh goodness, I've got 5 kids. The economy is horrible. What am I going to do? I said, well, I'm going to go into business because I'm very good at researching things, and I'm going to find farmers. And the first place I went was actually Leesville to the market to stalk Englewood because they would not return my emails or return my calls, and I was very upset with them.
Because farmers are so easy to work with.
So one afternoon, I was on the internet, and I said, oh, wait, they're in Leesville this afternoon at a market. I grabbed my husband, I put him in the car so we can get there and get back before the kids get out of school. And so we drove down there. And finally, they figured out that I was serious. Stephen did, and he's actually the wholesale manager now, so it's worked out very nicely. And they started sending me their wholesale list. This was I decided to start the business in February, and our first delivery was April 15th. And I was kind of just like, well, I'm gonna find produce somewhere. Because in April, there's not a lot of produce, and there's certainly not a lot of produce in Shreveport. And I remember when I was down there, someone said, you're not going to be able to do this in Shreveport. There's absolutely not going to be able to. I said, well, there's a farmer's market, there's farmers, there's farmland. I drive and I see crops. I mean, we used to have cotton in the middle of town. It's now all developed, but it's only been in the last 10 years. So there's farmers. I have friends, their parents are farmers, but they're all commodity farmers, and I didn't know the difference. I had no idea. And in fact, even as late as July, when I went down to the Shreveport Farmers Market and I saw cherries, and I thought, well, where are they getting those cherries? I had no idea that you can't actually grow cherries here. So it's been a learning experience for me that, you know, I think a lot of people go to the grocery store and they think somewhere in the world apples are growing. And someone is sending us these apples. And this is how we have apples right now. That is what I thought. It's somewhere on the planet, because to me, you know, it's cold somewhere, it's hot somewhere, all the time, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere on the planet, these apples are growing, and they're being sent here to Shreveport, Louisiana, through the modern, you know, miracle of food distribution. I did not realize that those apples were from last year's harvest, and that they'd just been in cold storage. I didn't realize until I tried to deliver peaches that the grocery store's freezing the peaches. So there's all these things that I think people don't realize, and ultimately I think that we have the food system that we wanted. Americans wanted cheap food all the time. They want to be able to eat pineapples in January, watermelons in January, and all of these things, and that now we're looking at it and we're saying, oh, wait a second, maybe this isn't what we wanted. But you still have this huge gap of knowledge, because you can walk down to the Shreveport Farmers Market in July and buy gigantic strawberries. And they're not being grown anywhere in Louisiana. But my friends will take pictures and put them on Instagram and Facebook and say, oh, the wonderful local goodness. I'm like, no, that's not local wonderful goodness. That's a wholesale distributor or the grocery store. You're eating Dole strawberries that you're paying twice as much for because you don't realize that they're not actually going to grow now. So that's how I came to be right here standing in front of you. The two things that I think, aside from my business, that I have started getting interested in are the school gardens, Loyola's garden expansion. So I went to Loyola, graduated 20 years ago. The now principal was one of my teachers. And so I was sitting in his office talking to him about the fact that I'd lost my job. And he said, hey, the science teacher started a rooftop garden on the residence building. You can buy produce from them. Because Johnny's always trying to find a way to make money. And so I said, okay. So I go and I look at the garden, and it's, you know, the residence building where the priest used to live. It's on the very top. And so they had, you know, kind of hodgepodged around and gotten a bunch of stuff, and they started this garden. So I started talking to him, and I found out about a grant that I thought that they would, you know, be eligible for. And he applied for it, and they expanded, and they got these neat boxes that are super expensive, by the way. And they actually didn't have enough room anymore on the rooftop garden, so they moved them down here. The other thing are just the community gardens. Shreveport has a lot of community gardens. This one is closed. It's at St. Catherine's Church, which is in a, it's not a bad neighborhood. I think a lot of people kind of think it's a bad neighborhood, but it's not a horrible neighborhood. But yeah, so those are the two things, but I don't know really where I'm going at this point.
I think that we can't emphasize enough how much we assume about our food system and how awesome it is that you're out there helping people identify those assumptions and helping them find what they think they're getting. You're really helping to supply that reality, and I think that's really important. And I also think that cows are totally awesome. So you had me at cow. But I think that your passion and your drive and that entrepreneurial spirit is really important. And as you find and define this leadership role, I'm really excited to watch that happen and to see what you have taught yourself and figure out what part of that is going to be your message. I think is going to be very powerful when you find what that is and you put your voice and passion behind it. I think it's going to be great. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, that's all the PhotoWise projects. And,
Perfect.
These are really cool. I really like seeing, because like the first day we all kind of heard, oh, this is what I want, this is where I am, blah, blah, blah. But these have actually, I kind of feel like, I know it made me kind of narrow down, but it kind of gives a visual presentation of what you all are thinking. And it shows how we all have our different agendas and projects and ideas, but we all are trying to go to the same dang place.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Many paths, same mountain.
Yeah, and you know what I really like about it too is, you know, just the different, I guess the different viewpoints of the food system that I think often we're on this little bubble and we think that everybody feels the same way we do about local food. You know, and I think it's really important to remember that everybody thinks differently about it. So hopefully this project kind of, in the presentations especially, kind of put that perspective in front of you a little bit more than you know, it has in a while. So again, I really appreciate it. And again, you know, we have these as posters that you all saw. And so I know there's a couple of typos, which are my fault, because I was, I typed it. So if you don't, I'll fix those before we display them publicly. And if you do not want me to display your poster publicly, please let me know. But I hope that with this project, you know, I think these pictures are beautiful, the captions are amazing, and I think being able to share this with the public at a place like Foodapalooza would be really invaluable. And I think that people that would see them, who weren't a part of this process, would have a lot of questions, and I think all of those questions would be good questions. So that's why I really do want to share them. And you know, these presentations also were great too. Now it's the old time. I wonder if we get them to present too, but I'm not going to go there yet. Maybe later.